Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from What Culture Comics, today joined by Zoe.
Heyo.
To talk about X-Men, because the X-Men are back in a big way. They're still back, it's great, it's the happiest time I've ever had in a long time. I've fallen in love with the X-Men after a grand total of about over a decade of not loving them, which is amazing. Like, I've not actually been this obsessed with the X-Men since I was waking up every Saturday to watch either the 90s show on Fox Kids or X-Men Evolution, which I think was on Cartoon Network. So yeah, it's really good. If you're not already aware, we did a video on it last week about House of X kind of coming out and basically redefining the X-Men as we know it. And what Marvel are doing is you have House of X releasing one week and then Powers of 10, got it right this time, Powers of 10 releasing every other week. So it's basically 12 issues in total, but 6 issues from each series, and yesterday Powers of 10 came out. And I would say it's just as mind-blowing as the first one. We're kind of going to go into all the different details surrounding it, but I'm going to take it out the Mylar bag right now. It's just a peak nerd effect and just... That's some good ASMR, that. But yeah, this is the issue. It's really, really good. I absolutely loved it. Again, basically kind of throwing us all into the deep end with all this crazy X-Men lore. And what were your big takeaways from the story?
That it's just going to keep getting better, firstly.
Yes.
I cannot replicate the childlike excitement of when you came in the office this morning. And I was like, we can...
We gotta talk about X-Men! We gotta talk about X-Men!
Like... It's like you were saying, I think for a lot of people, the X-Men is a very good franchise, but one that's easy to sort of lose interest in because it can get very complicated. So to now just have it like not only very streamlined, but in the streamlinedness, very, very exciting. And also implying a lot of things about the overall universe of the X-Men, like the dreams that finally occurring.
The story for this, it's weird because I've always maintained that it's hard to get into the X-Men because everything is so difficult, like so very confusing. You know, it's very convoluted, and this is pretty convoluted as well. But it's like you said, it's convoluted but in a streamlined way. You don't need to know anything else about the X-Men because everyone is on an equal playing field in terms of just how ridiculous this is. So House of X obviously last week introduced us to Krakoa and X and what's going on with the flowers. And you know where the mutants are in current Marvel continuity. Powers of 10 goes through different generations of the X-Men. So we're introduced to X-Men Year Zero, which is Professor X right as he's coming into formulating the X-Men. And then we have X1, which is the X-Men in our world currently, and then X2, which is the X-Men Year 100, the war that's going on in the future, which we'll get to in a second. And the last bit is the X-Men in the Year 1000, which is basically way, way, way in the future at the end of this. It's kind of similar to what he did in Avengers, Hickman, when he had it was before time runs out, when we had Captain America beaming through all these different places and Kang was Iron Man. It was really confusing, but also great at the same time. But yeah, there's a really interesting scene at the beginning involving Professor X and Moira McTaggart, which
is she?
Yes, and that's like an interesting thing is we've got this legacy element of time travel coming into play, and we don't know whether it could be a Days of Future Past thing with Moira because at the end of it, it's kind of in a similar way to how House of X in that opening bit with X releasing the X-Men from their eggs. This one has a similar kind of confusing moment that the issue doesn't come back to, involving Moira asking Charles to read her mind, and then we get into something from that as well. And there have been some interesting fan theories floating around that maybe Moira isn't who she purports to be, and yeah, it's really interesting. There is so much world building in this issue. We're introduced to new kinds of mutants. So we're basically brought up to speed on half a century's worth of history in the space of a few panels with the graphs that we had from House of X last time. But yeah, shall we get into the thrust of the issue? So basically, in the Year 100, we are introduced to this conflict that's ongoing between the mutants and this human-machine hybrid alliance, and it's absolutely terrifying, very dystopian, but they introduced so many interesting things in this. So we've got the Hounds are back from Days of Future Past, which are like mutants bred to hunt other mutants, but now we've actually got this whole situation going on where for the past 50 or so years, the X-Men were trusting Mr. Sinister to breed mutants in a sort of arms race going on with the humans, and obviously leaving stuff to Mr. Sinister is a It's a big no-no.
When you're someone called Mr. Sinister, maybe you shouldn't trust.
Yeah, the clue's literally in the name. But yeah, they kind of introduced these mutants called chimeras, and there are different stages of chimeras, and they're basically genetically engineered mutants that share the DNA of different mutants. And so the lead character of this issue is Rasputin, and she has the DNA of, correct me if I'm wrong, it's Colossus, Kitty Pryde, and Laura Kinney, I'm fairly certain. I'm trying to find the specific bit where they actually go through it, but it's...
There's a lot of text.
Yeah, there's a lot of text, and basically, you know, as he does, Mr. Sinister betrays the X-Men, we find out during this time, and creates his own version of the Chimeras that basically become one singularity. We learn that the loads of mutants are now living in the galaxy with the Shi'ar, who also have their own duplicitous kind of scheme to make them their own Imperial War Guards, which is, again, really, really interesting. So at this point in time, Krakoa is forward. There are only about 10,000 or so X-Men alive on Earth, and there's a mini resistance being led by the most eclectic mix of superheroes we probably would say. You know, I think
it's interesting they began with some very, very iconic X-Men, and then it's sort of like, and these dudes who look kind of like people you know, but also aren't the people you know.
Yeah, so basically we follow these kind of mutant resistance fighters in the future. We have Rasputin, who obviously we just mentioned, and then a Nightcrawler-esque fellow who I've completely forgotten his name. They're still using the flowers of Krakoa as well, I should add. Cardinal, and then there is the poor, unfortunate soul who gets put in the data mining tank and is left to rot for 1,000 generations. But basically we come back to I think it's called Asteroid K, I think it is, and we basically find out that, and I'm not kidding, Wolverine, Magneto, you know, this is kind of making sense right now. Green Magneto, Groot, and I think Susanna Polo of Polygon speculated that it could be a weird version of Beta Ray Bill that's in this team as well. If not him, then maybe a Corbinite. You kind of mentioned there might be a Ghost Rider thing going on there as well, which is interesting.
Just because I don't think it looks like Beta Ray Bill, but
you can imagine that maybe they have a Ghost Rider Corbinite, which would make sense because the face is I definitely see the face there. But yeah, what do you think is going on with that team?
Well, I think it's absolutely fascinating because each year, each couple hundred years must have to link together. Hence the entire title of Powers of 10.
There we go.
We're getting there. So, like, obviously it's very interestingly framed in the way that we know exactly how it ends, and it ends with 8 mutants still existing on Asteroid K, and that's it. They're the entire of the mutant race. So to be like, well, what exactly goes on? And suddenly Groot's here in my house.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I did mention before we came on that Groot kind of looks like the elf man from Hellboy 2: The Golden Army that gets killed by his old son. He's rocking a massive beard right now. It's really cool. But yeah, it's one of those things now. I'm absolutely in love with this series. I have no idea where it's going. I'm interested in all the theories that are coming out regarding X and Moira. I'm really interested to see what's going on there, you know. And you know, we do actually get a brief little glimpse of what happened in House of X with Mystique and what they were doing on retrieving the data from is Damage Control, wasn't it? It was from Damage Control. And we kind of see, you know, more glimpses of X or someone who purports to be Professor Xavier, kind of, you know, Mystique basically asks him, is helping your fellow mutant not enough reward for the great Charles Xavier? You know, they reply, we're building a better mutant world, Mystique, and everyone who would live in it owes something. Which is about as far away as you could probably get from Professor X's old ideology. You know, he was all about building this kind of mutant human utopia. And now it's kind of a case of, well, now you've got to pay your way, or you've got to earn your right to live in this place. And the identity of X is still really interesting. Is it actually Professor X? Is it someone else who's kind of in the body? Is it more than one person? I have no idea. And honestly, in terms of comics that are creating a mystery that I've been really, really engrossed by, or something that I actually believe is actually going to last longer than just the amount of time the comic's out, because I'm not entirely convinced that Doomsday Clock is going to stick in the long term, because DC are very temperamental with that sort of thing. House of X and Powers of 10 are the most exciting books that you can read right now. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Well, I think sort of the talk about the cycles of like mutants being wiped out, humanity being wiped out, or have they been at the very end? I think it creates some really interesting sort of dialogues about how the X-Men would function in an actual reality where people, you know, wouldn't be the dominant species. I think seeing it work over like 1,000 years, it's just such a clever idea, and I've never really seen it done as well as it has been here.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled.
It's so epic. I'm like, it's really exciting because I don't know what I'm looking forward to out of this series the most now. I don't know how this is going to get resolved by the time we come to October and we have our new X-Men team and we have a new status quo. I imagine there's going to be some sort of time travel malarkey going on right now. Some people have hypothesized that maybe there are certain aspects of it that are actually all in a dream. I think we come to the bit when it's actually we get introduced to Year Zero, they refer to it as, where do I find it? The Dream, I'm trying to find it. Yeah, here we go. So the X-Men, Year One, the Dream, and then you kind of keep on going forward through this. People have mentioned the different lettering as well. There is a massive kind of delineation between certain lettering that is going on with different characters, kind of like you'd be used to in reading like a Thor comic where you have the Asgardians speaking in their own tale. I remember when we had when Hickman was doing Secret Wars as well, we had all the people that were from the Ultimate Universe speaking with the Ultimate Universe font. It's interesting. I'm kind of curious to see the multiversal applications of this going forward. I don't know if you think that might be an element as well.
I think that's got to be the way they end it, if I'm honest, because I had a sneak peek at some of the covers. I won't spoil it for you guys, but it does genuinely look like it's only going to amp up. And I mean, with the level that we're at already, the only way it can go is through multiverse shenanigans, which I think we're all on board.
I love me some multiverse shenanigans. But yeah, I want to know what you all thought of Powers of 10 down in the comments below. Are you really excited? Are the X-Men finally back? I want to know. Please tell me your thoughts, because I'm kind of racking my brain through this series and I still don't know 100% what the hell is even going on. But yeah, please be sure to do that, and then like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And head back on over to whatculture.com/comics. We'll have more X-based analysis every day. As always, I've been Ewan. You can follow me on Twitter @EwanRuinThings. And today, I've been joined by Zoe.
I am Ewan's co-conspirator, and you can find me at Zemmascal.
So remember your tinfoil hat. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.